The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. If you've ever experienced a preschooler who has accidentally locked themselves in a bathroom, you have an image of how it feels to be locked in a bad habit. The child might fret, panic, tantrum, beat on the door, and cry for help, all without the understanding of the doorknob and the lock button. In his book, The Power of Habit, Charles Duhigg tries to unlock the mystery of habit. To be sure, not all habits are bad. Duhigg points out that we rely on habits, autopilot for the brain, to avoid decision overload. Our brains can basically be programmed to do some things with minimal thought. What would it be like if every evening you had to decide whether to shower, read your book, or brush your teeth first? Or what about parallel parking? Those people who parallel park and do it often don't have to think through the steps given in the driver's training manual. Established habits relieve the brain from having to make a decision about each act or each component of these routine processes. But maybe you, like most people, also struggle with some sort of bad habit, and like the preschooler locked in the bathroom, you may have tried various ways to kick the habit, but had limited success. Some people break a bad habit only to find that they have replaced it with another undesirable habit, or worse yet, the new habit has joined the old one. But Duhigg exposes the doorknob, so to speak, and its lock and unlock mechanism. Through research, he has identified the elements of a habit cycle. A habit, good or bad, moves through these three processes. 1. Cue. 2. Routine. 3. Reward. The cue. The cue is the trigger that sets the process in motion. You sense an external cue of some sort. It could be a time, a place, a set of circumstances. Brain activity spikes, searching for the routine. A teacher, for example, might be cued by the morning recess bell. Before we get to the second step, please don't forget to support our channel by liking, subscribing, and commenting on this video. Alright, let's get back to it. The routine. Then the routine is set in motion. The routine is made up of the steps you take to reach the reward. With repetition, these become ingrained and take little brain activity. The teacher heads for the break room and checks the table for goodies. And there they are. Brownies today. The reward. The reward is what you seek. For the teacher entering the break room, it appears the reward is eating the sugary treat. Probably the sugar not only stimulates the pleasure of taste, but boosts blood sugar temporarily and gives a feeling of energy. The teacher feels ready to go back to the classroom. As this cycle is repeated, the connection between the cue and the reward gets stronger, and anticipation for the reward grows. It is what is identified as the craving. The craving is a neurological response that acts like a generator of the cue, routine, reward cycle. With the craving in place, the morning recess jaunt to the break room for goodies becomes a habit, coded into the brain and powered by the craving. The behavior becomes automatic and takes little brain activity. That's why it's difficult for reason to intercept a habit we want to break. In fact, habits never really go away completely, but changing the components can release you from their grasp. How? Start by looking at the routine you want to stop. For the teacher, it's eating the goodies in the break room at morning recess. She hates the sugar crash that takes place during the class right before lunch, and she's gaining unwanted weight. Then, search for the cue. Cues usually fall into one or more of 5 categories. To discover the cue or cues, ask yourself these questions. 1. Where am I when it occurs? Location. 2. What time is it? Time. 3. What am I feeling? Emotion. 4. Who is around? Other people. 5. What just happened? Last action. In the teacher's case, the cue is connected with a particular time and event that happens right before. It's 10 a.m. and the bell for morning recess has just sounded. When addressing a habit, knowing the cue helps you know where you need to begin your change. In some cases, you may be able to avoid the cue itself. In other cases, you may need to respond to the unavoidable cue in a different way. Next, experiment with the rewards. Let's continue using the teacher as an example. Put yourself in her shoes. What is it that is rewarding about going to the break room? What is the real craving? Leaving the classroom? Yes, but it is probably more. Movement? Maybe. An energy boost? Sure, and it's undeniable that she enjoys the taste of the treat, most of the time. Like many habits, she must admit that sometimes she eats it just because it's there. What would you suggest as a replacement reward for her? What else might be refreshing, provide movement, and give a bit of a boost? Think outside the box, of treats that is. Perhaps a handful of almonds would satisfy the craving, and she could take them outdoors and eat them as she walks around the building. Putting yourself in her shoes to think this through actually leads to another mechanism to help replace a bad habit: community. Even if the community is only one person, finding support and accountability, and perhaps a partner in habit changing, has been proven to raise your chances of replacing the habit. This is why groups that hold meeting, like Alcoholics Anonymous or Weight Watchers, have such a good record of success. When looking for replacement habits, Duhigg points out that some habits are great candidates for becoming keystone habits. These are not only good and healthy, but ones that tend to lead to other good habits. Take, for example, the suggestion of Navy SEAL Admiral William H. McRaven, the author of Make Your Bed. He suggests just that: make your bed every morning. Why? Because it starts you off on the right foot. You begin your day successfully accomplishing a task and showing personal discipline and willpower. He says this simple habit will lead to the ability to establish other, more challenging habits as you go on. Another keystone habit is exercise. Because exercise is connected to weight management, physical health, and mental health, it is considered a keystone habit because it is likely to lead to good changes in other areas of your life. Exercise is also connected to willpower. And according to Duhigg, willpower is the primo keystone habit. Like a muscle, it grows when used. Replacing a habit is going to take willpower, but it also builds willpower. Replacing one habit opens the door for you to get in control of other habits as well. Understanding the habit cycle and the craving that sets it in motion gives you a chance at making a change. Our treat-seeking teacher might remind us that knowledge is power. So you don't have to beat on the door of that trapping habit. Unlock it instead.